You're listening to Loose Cannon, the podcast that answers all the questions about the Star Wars universe you never thought you had. You're welcome, I guess.
I really hate right now that we're locked out of our apartment. It's recording day, and we have to go down to the pub down the street. This bar is nasty, by the way.
Yeah, I guess it'll do as our home away from home for right now. We can have a couple of drinks in the meantime. If they have anything good here to drink, that is.
Pardon the background noise, please, because we have no control over anything.
All that.
This is a really weird crowd in here. I've run into some like really strange people, and a lot of them are kind of jerks, honestly. Was one guy I was grabbing a drink from the bartender, and he kept telling me his friend hated me, which is like the weirdest, like most mean girlsy thing you can say to someone.
So passive aggressive.
Yeah, I don't know why you just randomly. Hi, nice to meet you. My friend hates you. Stop. I hate your face. You know, just I don't know. I don't like this place.
His friend didn't seem to speak English though.
No.
It might have been a cultural thing. I don't know.
His face kind of looked like a butt, too.
Like, if that guy thinks he had any chance with any girl in here.
The guy had no game.
And speaking of weird creeps, there's this guy in the back over at that booth that's sitting there. Like, he's clearly trying to pull some sort of weird fashion game because he's got a vest on and rain boots.
Like, hey, I remember my first time being a hipster.
Yeah, I know. I also subscribe to the American Apparel catalog, but, man, the yellow racing stripe, kudos.
Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe the Jonas Brothers lost one of their ghost performers or something. Oh, man, this place is ridiculous.
I really think I'm going to look this up on Yelp right now and
they need to
post a negative
down.
review. At the very least, it's not podcast friendly.
Yeah, this place needs
People need to know.
This is a horrible establishment.
What is the name of this so I can look it up?
It's the most likely...
It's like most easily or something.
I didn't even look...
Holy shit, that old guy just cut that guy's arm off! You are listening to the Star Wars Loose Cannon podcast. I'm Nick Oswald.
I'm Patrick Ebersol.
And I am Alex Slow. As you may have heard there, I'll lead us into this. As you may have heard there, we were had a night out in the Mos Eisley Cantina, as it's
we teleported to a long time ago and far away.
Far away. And the reason we wanted to go there for tonight's podcast is because there's just this one question that's been burning at us ever since we all first watched the original trilogy.
Yeah, I for one, I don't know if listeners out there are curious, but why aren't droids allowed in the cantina?
What kind of prejudice is that?
I know, and you walk by and you got this little looks like an air conditioning unit from like a public school classroom, but it's got this blue light cross in it, and it goes wagga 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 wagga. And then immediately the bartender, that sound signifies there are droids, and here goes the whole bar. No droids allowed.
Right, and it doesn't even seem to be a really rich area, yet he's got all this money into a droid detector.
I know. That's the whole thing. So we decided we were going to look this up and figure out why. And actually, the answers have brought up a lot of topics that we want to talk about.
Heck, our answers lead to more questions than answers.
More questions than answers, indeed.
Well, hey, let's dive right on in.
So let's start from the top. The three rote answers, I think the top three are a couple of them are pretty practical, but there's some really great ideas in here, too. First of all, droids do not drink alcohol. I know this is counter to Futurama out there. Obviously, Bender drinks a lot, but in the Star Wars universe, at least they don't drink. So practicality says they take space away from paying customers. So, management, chop, bottom line, get out of here. That's the boring answer, I think. Number three answer is the bartender's name. It's Wuher. If I can figure out how to pronounce it, I'll let you know. But Wuher, the bartender, is prejudiced against droids, and he can afford to boss them around because he can't boss around anybody else in his pathetic life.
That is why you open a bar.
Yeah. It's so you can feel that bit of power.
So you can attract the customers you hate and then decline them service. It's my true reason for wanting to become a restaurateur.
We should open a bar.
And that, I actually, the first two answers kind of bring up an interesting topic in this Cantina world. It has been known as the Mos Eisley Cantina, referenced in many places. But the real answer, the real name of the bar is Chalmun's Spaceport Cantina. Chalmun.
It's much catchier.
Yeah,
so
I
should have gone with that.
It's like
much homier sounding vibe to it.
Be like, well, we live in Chicago, so it'd be like if we went to our favorite bar here, or actually our favorite dive bar full of wretched hive and scum and villainy, and if it was just called the Chicago Bar.
TGI Fridays.
Yeah, TGI Fridays is kind of my haunt.
Yes, the most wretched of all crowds.
Wretched hive of scum and villainy. Fridays.
So yeah, we've got two of the answers there. The third one?
The third one, and this may be what the real controversial answer is, that they keep out Imperial sentry droids that are disguised as other droids. Mm-hmm. So this bar is full of criminals, right? So you have all kinds of murder for hire people. We'll talk about Ponda Baba and his the butt-faced guy and his sidekick. They were into some less than ideal business opportunities. But there's some real baddies in this cantina here, and we realize Chalmun is going to scare off some patrons if he lets some droids in there that may be recording conversations.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Nick, because Tatooine through all of the movies has been sort of one of those places in the Star Wars universe that is just a great spot for it's a weird melding of a great trade port and also a great criminal sort of underworld hive. Yes. And it takes those two places, those two different economic sources, and puts them in one spot where legitimate characters can pop in there, get a drink, meet some of the locals of the area, and then also there's a safe spot for people who may not be in the pocket of Imperials, strictly speaking. And then you can also get the people who are down and dirty, bad, rough criminals, like your Greedos, like your Han Solos.
Han.
Yeah. So you can just get all sorts of interesting drifters without the sterile measures of the Imperial control.
Exactly. That's where you go to get shit done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. To off the record stuff,
It's like the Hob, if you like the Hunger Games.
Yes, just like
awesome.
that. It's like
the Hub.
The places in Nocturne Alley, if you're into the Harry Potter world.
Yeah, or it's like Central Perk in Friends.
All right, yes. But before... I'd like to take a step back for a minute before we get too overly into what clearly seems like the most reasonable answer. I'd like to go back to the first two and just discuss why those aren't quite as reasonable. So with the first one, I guess the reason... I get that it's practical, but the thing that would be most unlikely for it for me is that's kind of working under the assumption that droids are just machines and robots per se, but no one, if I go to a bar here, is going to tell me I can't take my toaster. No one's going to tell me I can't have a pint with my microwave if I want to. I'd get weird looks, but no one's going to shoot that down.
I mean, if I could just respond to that real quick, Alex, it's sort of like you kind of have to go back to the way that I guess Lucas might have sort of formed his idea of this world, where it's this sort of melding of medieval fantasy knights and sorcerers and also country western, cowboys and Indian sort of stuff. The droids are very much almost like the mules or the horses of the story in that world.
Doing the heavy lifting.
They do the heavy lifting. They're the ones that carry around the stuff, and they are the faces of the workhorse for the people. I don't know.
It's almost like they're Patrick. They're a person placeholder too, because they have personhood. They have names that you affectionately call them, but yet again, they're not doing the same things that humans do, and it could very easily be discriminated against because they're subhuman almost. Yeah. Because they're human-like, but not enough to be accepted.
Yeah.
But practicality aside, they still need to kind of sit somewhere. They take up as much room as a person, as opposed to a toaster won't. You can set it up on the table. But an astromech droid that, I don't know how much R2 weighs. That'll be a great topic. How much does R2 weigh? But he's probably pretty heavy, and I can't imagine C-3PO is very light, and he's going to have to sit in a spot just like a human because he's kind of a humanoid droid.
Yeah. Also, I mean, imagine just you trying to walk around a crowded bar, and then all of a sudden this little thing with wheels like darts in front
Runs
of
over
you.
your toes.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck!
It's like when you're trying to cook in a kitchen with your dog there or whatever. It's the same sort
Well,
of feel.
and there was that scene in the prequels where they Padme sends R2 up to get something from the buffet, and he just goes straight and gets it.
Yeah.
Cuts right in line, and it's like, he just doesn't quite get the.
I just can't get the
decencies.
image. I can't get the image of my head of R2 rolling up on Lando and cut, like getting his cape tangled in his wheels. God damn it, R2! I was just wanting to enjoy my Colt 45.
Yes. So yeah, I get that. I don't know. I feel like it would make sense, but droids are they're a prevalent part of the world. It would seem weird that someone always has to leave them outside.
Which that rolls into the second question, is that the bartender just wants to exert his prejudice on something because he's a lowly bartender.
Right. We know he's an asshole.
He's a grump. I mean, look at him. He frowns the whole time.
I know.
Episode 4.
Just be a little happier.
Yeah. Which apparently his backstory is kind of tragic, so I won't really hold it against him. But he is also kind of the proto-mixologist hipster, the one that's very, very much in tune with how you're supposed to be making drinks for everybody and what you should muddle together to make the best mojito, maybe. Because he does talk about in some of the stories. And a lot of what we're pulling from today is from Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, which is an awesome book of short stories, basically about every little weird character that you see in the Cantina. It's fascinating. Check it out. But he product placement. I have no rights into the book, so I don't make any.
But the authors of the book can pay us.
Yes, they can pay us. Once again, if you'd like to pay us, our number is no, just kidding. But as going back to the proto-hipster mixologist type, he actually believes pretty highly of himself. And if you look behind the bar, there's some really gnarly looking implements there. Like it looks like those really high silo espresso machines, but they're all kind of hooked together like a hamster. What are those called? Hamster maze.
Yeah.
So, but apparently things drip out of them that are intoxicating.
Yeah, you mess up back there. I think it's more than just having a bad tasting drink. Something's going to explode.
So you heard it here.
Or kill somebody.
Star Wars cantinas were actually meth labs before they were cool.
Way before they were cool.
They were meth labs, and they were the prototype for bars that are in Wicker Park.
Local joke.
For our Chicago listeners.
All three of you.
Yes.
Who am I kidding?
Who am I kidding? You're all Chicago listeners. Only your friends are listening to us right now.
But I agree that, prejudiced, it'd be one thing, but he also, if it was just his prejudice, they're not going to have a machine, especially because he doesn't own the place.
This is true. He does not own the place. Chalman owns the place.
No, so it's not going to be, if he's the guy who's just prejudiced, it's not going to be him buying the machine, so it would have to be the owner who's prejudiced.
If you're hiring a prejudiced bartender and you allow his prejudices to go through on your patrons, you're probably going to have some problems logistically. So Chalman, I'm really glad that you brought him up because he is obviously my favorite race of people in Star Wars. He is a Wookiee. You would think that he would see him in the background in Episode 4, but he's not, so this isn't exactly canon. But Chalman Spaceport Cantina, owned by Chalman, a Wookiee. He's the owner-proprietor, and perhaps maybe he's the person putting forth these standards for not letting droids in. So maybe he's the prejudiced asshole that we're looking for.
Yeah, the rules and regulations thrown down by him. But for some reason, I just like the Wookiees too much to think one of them's prejudiced against droids.
No. And Wookiees are really damn practical, I would say, too. Other than the fact that they go off the handle if they lose at anything and rip off arms, it's very possible that he's going to have a pretty cool head about it. So I tend to think it's going to be the third answer.
Right.
That at any point in time, and you see it from the very first moments of Episode 4, R2 droids can and are recording, possibly at all moments of the day. Who knows how much hard drive space it takes to make a hologram.
And as we know from recording this podcast, you never want to be recorded while drinking.
This is true.
Brought to you by Miller Lite.
By the way, if Miller High Life wants to send us a case and sponsor this podcast, we are not going to say no.
We won't say no to anything.
No.
But yes, I mean, that's how we got the footage from the original Star Wars trilogies. It was all recorded on an R2 unit. So you know that they have a lot of storage space, and there's a lot of shady shit happening in there. Like,
there's some weird shit going on, Alex. The more I learned about the individual characters, the more I was a little bit disturbed.
There's no one in there you're taking home to mom.
No, not a single. Well, you could venture to say that's the entire city of Mos Eisley. You don't go to Mos Eisley unless you are trying to get some shit done. Although, at the end of Episode 6, Special Edition, I know we like to pretend those don't exist, but after the end of the quote-unquote, well, I'll say quote-unquote end of the Galactic Civil War, Mos Eisley is one of the cities you see celebrating, which obviously they have good reason to celebrate because they won't have any Imperial meddling anymore, but it's kind of weird seeing a city full of criminals getting out and basically having a Blackhawks parade.
It's like Alcatraz celebrating when the Giants win the World Series.
Good analogy, Alex.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Some of these characters that are frequenting, who knows if they're really frequenting, but they're there for some reason, and looking into Ponda Baba and his friend that you don't often hear about. His name is Dr. What's his name? Dr. Cornelius Evazan, otherwise known as Dr. Death. Now, how did he get the name of Dr. Death, Alex? Do you want to venture a guess?
He's got the death sentence on 12 systems.
You'll be dead! Come to find out, and there is a book series that I did not know existed until yesterday, and I'm really excited to track these books down. But there's a book series called Star Wars Galaxy of Fear, and they were written between, I want to say, 1996 and 1998 in the vein of Goosebumps. So they are preteen horror thrillers that end every chapter in a cliffhanger no matter what's happening. So I'm really stoked. It's book 2. It's called City of the Dead, and this actually highlights what Dr. Death Evazan is actually doing. And he is reanimating the flesh of the dead.
Creepy.
Yes. So this is why he's wanted for the death sentence on, how many systems was it, Alex?
12 systems.
12 systems!
Is that really fair, though, since he's bringing them all back to life?
Yeah, but I mean, that kind of practice is looked down upon.
Yeah, I guess you do have to kill before you bring him back to life. So
you do.
That part, the first half isn't so great.
And it's not like he's bringing back friendly beings back to life. He's, I don't know if you've ever seen Escape from... Is it Escape from L.A. or Escape from New York?
Well, there's two. The first one is Escape from New York.
Is that the one that has the guy that chops people up and like puts them back together using old body parts?
I think that might be the second one.
Is that L.A.?
L.A. I think the one from the 80s is Escape from New York.
Because that's what it reminded me of in reading about this story. And that's kind of how his face looks so screwed up, too, because he's not actually an alien. He's a human. He's of the human race of Star Wars. So he has this weird, like, put-together face because that's what he did. He put necrotized flesh back together and reanimated the dead. And I haven't read the story yet. I'm really itching to read the Star Wars version of Goosebumps. But basically, some bad things happen on this planet and whatever places he goes.
Dr. Death.
Dr. Death. And his sidekick, Ponda Baba.
Ponda Baba, just a well-meaning architect who has a bad day.
According to Robot Chicken.
Yeah, Seth Green knows what's up.
But actually, Ponda Baba is his lifetime companion, pretty much, and things go a little bit south after his arm gets cut off, apparently, as you would imagine. Being Dr. Death, he thought that he could reattach the arm, and it didn't go well. But before that happened, before all this fateful day where, oh no, the old guy cuts off your arm randomly, he was kind of his muscle throughout space, and maybe more of a lookout guy. Also worked as kind of like a shoddy medical assistant didn't really do that great of a job. But that's how they moved about the galaxy. That's how they got the death sentence on 12 systems.
Could you imagine if your doctor talked like that? Like,
Yeah, well, you get that guy as the assistant, and then you have Dr. Death as the guy who can't help you out.
Yeah, the nurse who comes in to try and make you feel better, like, oh, could you turn your head and cough?
Amazingly enough, blurbs about Dr. Death talk about the legitimacy of his MD degree as if this was something that we were trusting in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be an okay checkup. His name was Dr.
His
Death,
name had doctor in it.
and his face was made of necrotized flesh. It seemed good.
It's like going to Dr. Acula.
Well,
Too much.
Good
Too
one,
much.
Alex. Good one.
You should have gone with Dr. Feelgood on that one.
Dr. Feelgood. Yeah, you should have known that you didn't go to the right plastic surgeon when you see the guy's nose is opened up and kind of makes flaps.
He spends all day inside of cantinas.
Yes.
True. But what about...
with a butt-faced alien.
Yeah, he could have fixed that one. But anyway, what about the other characters in there? Any interesting ones, Nick?
So some of the other interesting characters are, of course, the band.
Well,
Maybe the most legitimate characters that are hanging out in the bar.
And they also popularized the turtleneck in the Star Wars universe. I'm pretty sure they're the only character with a turtleneck on. Oh, no. Princess Leia at one point also has
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she
They
rocks it.
did the black turtleneck.
The black
I'm sorry.
turtleneck. They were basically the Steve Jobses of the universe.
The Stevie Wonders of the universe.
Yes. They were the musical Steve Jobs, turtleneck wearing. Like, everything was just a keynote.
Yeah. They jive so well.
But the name of the band, and I'm going to just mash the hell out of his name, is Figrin D'An. So Figrin D'An, and the Modal Nodes. Now these are the giant cranial people that you see playing these instruments. They are consistent mostly of woodwind instruments, as you can notice, like oboe-like material. And they actually have really this race of beings is called the Bish. Don't talk about that Bish.
Bish, play it again.
Bish, what you talking about? And they actually have a much well put together ear for music. So many of them are musicians in the universe, and they actually compete with one another quite a bit. And this is how Figrin D'An made their way to Tatooine, because their home planet is just so full of really great musicians. They contracted themselves out, so they're most possibly the most legitimate thing happening at Chalmers Spaceport Cantina.
I mean, if they have fans going out to the cantina as rough as that, to see them, you know they gotta have a good show.
And their music is the catchiest song in the history of fake sci-fi music ever.
Or just all cinema. I think there are
could be.
There are fewer songs that are as great of earworms as that one. You know you're listening to it right now in your head.
Right now, I'm listening to it. Patrick, Alex, would you like to venture a guess at the name of the genre of the music that this group likes to play?
Well, it kind of sounds like a little splash of jazz, maybe a little bit of bluegrass in there. Has a little bit of a pop and R&B sound to it. I don't know, some sort of amalgamation of those genres put together. Or?
Sorry, I'm giggling like a child, but funny you should say splash.
Yeah.
But the name of the genre is jizz.
Oh,
say what?
Yeah, you heard me. I said jizz a second time just now.
Say it a third.
Say it a third. Jizz. So this podcast is just full of jizz.
Yeah. Could you spell it just to make sure we're pronouncing it correctly?
For our listeners out there, that's spelled J-I-Z-Z. Jizz. As opposed to, you don't want to get it confused with the Jats, which is a competing genre. You also don't want to get it confused with jizz whaling.
So be sure.
These are real things.
When you're going up,
Lucas, what are you doing?
in your Star Wars music store, and you're asking for a genre of music,
Can I see your jizz section?
Be sure you're saying it right. Be sure you're saying jizz.
Ask for it by name.
And when you ask for music, be sure to ask for the best jizz they got.
So this jizz, though, it's really. Okay,
This is going to keep going. I'm just saying right now.
All right, so the jizz is really catchy. Like, it just sticks with you.
I went and saw four guys wearing turtlenecks just blasting that jizz.
I will say at least 3 people are enjoying this podcast.
Oh, and then they always did that great cover in the Cantina. It's called "Play That Funky Jizz, White Boy." It's just gonna keep going. It's just you can probably fast forward for about 5 minutes, and then you'll get the jizz disclaimer that we're done. The disclaimer.
All right, then when we're done with our jizz, we'll dive right back in.
We'll go into blue milk after.
So Nick, how about this jizz whaling? What is it? What's the difference?
Well, I want you to talk about the guess that you thought jizz whaling was. What did you think jizz whaling was when we were walking home today?
Oh, I know what I thought what it was.
Or no, was that what Patrick said?
Yeah. So Nick, you and I were talking about it, and I immediately thought of, I think they replaced in Return of the Jedi.
The special editions.
Yeah, and the special editions where they went back and CGI stuff.
Hiss.
And there's that weird sort of elephant type looking species.
Max Rebo.
Max
his
Rebo.
name. He has a really unpronounceable name, but his name he goes by is Max Rebo.
And he kind of just sounds like
another band that
he sounds like the guy that sings Love Machine. He's just like
I'm just a love machine.
And so that's what I thought it was. And clearly it made me seem like a very sane, normal person walking down the street as I was, talking to my compatriots here. But no,
jizz whaling going.
Yeah, that's what really made me weird, was doing that instead. No. So I mean, what is it?
So, as opposed to what it sounds like, wailing, you would think there'd be somebody screaming, perhaps, but it's a slower, more intimate version of jizz.
For when you want to take that jizz a little bit slower and let it sit. Oh man!
I don't know what they guys were saying, but they were laughing a lot.
There should have been a great mashup between that noise and the original song, where it's just.
Oh man, so much blackmail on this file right now.
Okay, so the band though, there's a lot going on with the music here, and I gotta imagine the Mos Eisley Cantina is not the place for like supreme music listeners to go catch some tunes. So what's this band doing there?
So one of the backstories that you'll read in Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina is the chapter about figuring on and the modal nodes. They were originally contracted under none other than Jabba the Hutt. So they were Jabba's house band.
And
before Max Rebo and his...
So do we know have we found out if Jabba has a specific involvement, and is he sort of like a loan shark on the cantina itself? Does he have any stake in the actual operation of the cantina? Or
I don't know about the cantina, but he's certainly after Figrin and his modal nodes, because they basically break contract to go play a wedding in Mos Eisley. So they weren't supposed to ever leave Jabba's palace, but they leave, and it pissed off Jabba.
Man, that would have been a great storyline for one of the new movies if it just completely went off the rails and just followed the modal nodes as they went to go play at a wedding.
It's like Walk the Line mixed with Blade Runner.
Yeah, with a spot of jizz.
Just a little bit of jizz to kick it up a little bit. You did this, Lucas!
We didn't make this up.
So you can just imagine when they're at Lucasfilm and he's handing in the newest draft of Return of the Jedi.
Do you think it was Lucas, or do you think it was one of his writers?
Well, no, and the editor must have been like, they must have gone over it with them, and it could have been one of two ways, which both would have been equally bad. One would have been, it says here, Johns, could you change that to say jizz, please? So that's number one.
I mean, we can't have it exactly like a real world.
Is it? Yeah, initially they had it as something different, and Lucas said, no, make it jizz. The second...
Either way, he signed off on it.
And the second way is, from the get-go, he was like, and they were playing some jizz.
Well, here's a thought. What if the editor had a late night in the editing room, and he brought one of his tapes from home, and he accidentally laid that track down, and it had that label, and then he tried to just recover really quick, and he was like, "Oh no, that's what would be great for the music genre. We'll call it that."
No. This is definitely the music from the film. Yeah, that's not what you think it is.
Not at all. My personal.
You know those bald dudes in the cantina? Yeah, they're playing jizz. Were we moving on from figuring, or can I add one more thing?
Add one more thing, please.
There is a certain instrument called an omnibox with 2 M's, omnibox, that is actually supposedly one of the most interesting instruments in the galaxy, and it's very hard for people to master. And of course, the Bith, being the musical geniuses that they are, have somebody who's mastered a modal, that's the name of the band, an omnibox. It actually works as a mixer for the rest of the band, interestingly enough. So I was reading about it today. It looks kind of like he's on the 1s and 2s, that kind of thing. But he's it literally says he's clipping out the highs, he's attenuating the lows, and he's making everybody else sound way better than they actually really do sound in real life. But apparently this is really hard to do.
So he's doing it like in real time.
He's doing it in real time. He's mixing the sound of the band in real time.
That is phenomenal.
Yes.
Who would sign up for that job, though? You guys are all going to suck, and I'm going to change your voices.
Well, it's not necessarily that they suck. It actually
he just makes it better.
In the chapter, which is aptly called "We Do Not Play," what is it? We don't play weddings. This is the chapter in Tales from Mos Eisley. They actually talk about they sound check every venue beforehand to see what the acoustics are like. So they're correcting for sound. They're correcting for environment, acoustics, and the crowd that's there.
People killing each other in the crowd.
So it's essentially it's kind of genius. You can play a live band anywhere, and it's going to sound great anywhere.
Huh.
They've thought of everything. I mean, they thought of jizz and they thought of omniboxes.
Which are the 2 essentials.
Yes. You can't have jizz without an omni.
Okay, so we've gone over some crazy killers, a Doctor of Death. We've got the band, but many people's favorite character was also hanging out in the cantina around this time.
Who's your favorite character, Alex? Who are you talking about?
Well, the one I'm talking about right now is a guy who liked to fly solo. What was he
Greedo?
doing there? Well, Greedo's sure involved.
Guta solo.
Yes.
Zom di chalet.
Yes.
Sorry, I could do Star Wars.
Please do it all.
Other accent questions.
So what brings Han there?
Actually, I'm not quite sure of that.
I'm not either. Any guesses?
Is it serendipity?
No, he brings it to talk over the terms of his debt with Jabba. He's talking it over. He's hanging out and he has to talk over the terms of it. Greedo comes up to him. He's hanging out in back. He says, I'm here to collect my debt. And Solo says, hey, listen, I talked it over with Jabba. I'm good. I'm good for it. And Greedo says, you said that before. Like, it's over. And then when Han knows that, like, he's got the upper hand. As we all know, Han shot first.
He shoots first!
Okay? So he shoots him from underneath the table. And Greedo dies.
I forget about this. Again, we're making so many references to the special edition today, I want to hurt myself. But I forgot of the deleted scene that should have stayed deleted, where Han actually goes out to his spaceport, wherever he's left the Millennium Falcon, and he talks to a much thinner Jabba about this.
Not for a human.
Yes, right, not for a human. And then they have to do that awkward edit where he walks over his tail.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just painful.
Oh, here. Well, we can edit this, but I thought you were talking about the original one, where it was originally, fun fact, when they first shot Star Wars, they did a scene where Han walked out to the Millennium Falcon and Jabba came out to meet him. And this is before they came up with the concept of Jabba.
No, that is what I'm talking about.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the CGI'd one that came out.
Right, but they weren't ever going to use the real. Like, that was a deleted scene when they thought Jabba was a human.
But then they CGI.
But then, for some reason, some genius says, hey, we should use that and CGI Jabba in it.
Yeah.
And then they go, and somebody goes, well, what do we do when Han walks around the back? Oh, it's simple. We'll just, kind of elevate him and weirdly shoot him up over his tail, and then Jabba will make a oof noise. And, I'm sure nobody will think it sucks.
Yeah. Well, technology.
Deleted
Just
scenes.
let it be, George.
Deleted scenes are deleted for a reason, my friends. Keep them deleted. Much like most of our jizz jokes are going to be left on the cutting room floor.
Cutting loose.
cutting loose that jizz.
All right. So any other particularly intriguing folk?
Well, funny you bring up Greedo, because the idea that Han and Chewbacca are there as an accident to meet, Luke and Obi-Wan. Obviously, that's kind of fate in works, or the Force, whatever you want to say.
Well, we wouldn't say it's anything's absolute.
True. I mean, only the Sith deal in absolutes, which is an absolute. Saying only the Sith deal in absolutes is an absolute.
Right. So everyone's a Sith except us because we say anything is a possibility.
Well, the more reasonable thing to say would be sometimes the Sith deal in absolutes,
or
most
always.
times.
Almost always.
Yeah.
Or
they tend to deal
or you
in
can say,
absolutes.
"Hey, man, you're talking in absolutes. You kind of sound like a bit of a Sith right now, man."
Yeah,
that's another one.
Tone down the Sith.
Turn down the Sith notch, bud.
Would you dial the Sith down a little bit? Okay.
I've had enough of your Sith talk, buddy.
I'm tired of all your Sith.
First, you've been using all that jizz. Now you're going back to Sith. I'm sorry. I had to bring it back.
Jizz.
All right. Okay.
We're under a jizz shadow right now.
Okay.
We got to get out from underneath. The
shadow
jizz.
of the jizz pyre.
So, okay, we were talking about Han and we were talking about Chewbacca. And yes, they are there to possibly negotiate for the load that they blew. Oh my god, another jizz joke. I think it was Jabba's load. And Greedo, and we're talking about this deleted scene again. Why have this deleted scene where Jabba is actually there at Mos Eisley, and then he has to also talk to Greedo, which also makes zero sense as to why they would put this deleted scene. He already talked to Greedo. He already talked to the middleman. Why does he have to go talk?
I guess to try and defend...
Oh, yeah, he also talks about you poor crispo Greedo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to try and defend Mr. Lucas in the original vision. Maybe it was something where it was, Jabba doesn't want to get his hands dirty himself, so he has hired help all the time to do it. That's how that's how Dons work. That's how, the heads of cartels do it.
He catches wind of Greedo's death pretty quickly, I will say. Of course, you have the whole saga of Han Solo versus Jabba and the debt that he owes Jabba. And that's why you think Greedo's there, right? They have this whole jam session in the booth before he just reaches a horrible end. What a horrible day at a bar where a guy's arm gets cut off and then a man is shot to death.
But no one looks twice.
But nobody freaking cares.
To be fair, that's probably how it is every day there.
Right.
So.
It's true. This is true.
It's a terrible place.
And so he just throws him a couple of credits like, sorry for the mess. But anyway, Greedo might actually not only be there for Han Solo. When you come to find out, you have the modal nodes have broke contract with Jabba. And this chapter in Tales from Mos Eisley, man, I'm repping this book hard. Yeah. The narrator actually ends the story talking about seeing this green fellow with beady black eyes and wearing a goofy orange vest that just keeps eyeing them from the back. So there's something implied here that Greedo or Han Solo is not the only contract hit that is out for Jabba for Greedo to be looking for. It's very possible he's looking for the right moment to enact payback and collect on the debt that the modal nodes have left to Jabba.
So this becomes a very intertwined story.
Yes, it does.
There's a lot going on in this cantina. Yeah. It's like it's the center of the universe.
Basically.
Or galaxy.
I mean, it just leaves Greedo as the biggest asshole in the bar, really. That's the one that sounds like everybody didn't like Greedo, and now he's gone, so Han really did him a solid there on that one.
Yeah, that might be exactly why nobody cared.
Yeah, so let him go.
All right, but Dr. Death or Greedo? Who's worse?
Dr. Death, for sure. I don't know if Greedo has the death sentence on it.
I mean, yeah, to be fair,
systems.
Greedo was a bounty hunter, so he was just trying to do his job, whereas Dr. Death was a screwed up dude.
I don't know how acceptable we'll get to this in our Bounty Hunter podcast, but Bounty Hunter seems to be a pretty acceptable job in the universe.
Yeah, and doesn't seem like there's a lot of rules for it. It's not a very regulated job.
And the Empire seems to tap that too.
Yeah, they are happy to endorse some smugglers whenever they need to. So,
we can't find them with all of the technological advancements in the galaxy, so we'll send 5 just freaking lowlifes to go find
Go get this crazy guy, give him a jetpack and a gun, and he'll find him.
He's a clone, it turns out, but, he's probably good people.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's Boba Fett, if anybody didn't pick up on it.
He's the one with the helmet. Not the stormtrooper, but the other guy.
So, Patrick, you were pretty jazzed about...
Jazz.
I didn't say it there. About a certain beverage that is offered.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily in just the bar, but all over Tatooine.
I think the thing that's kind of cool about this cantina, as well as this beverage I'm about to talk about, is these are two of the major things in the first movie that kind of start to ground it in a otherworldly sort of universe in the movies. I mean, aside from the giant starships blasting each other in space. But I mean, you go down to this desert planet, and it looks just like a regular desert. But then you follow Luke. He goes home to his uncle and his aunt, and they start eating together. And everything looks fairly normal, right? They're all like eating off of plates and whatnot, and then they start passing around a pitcher of some kind of drink. And what is it? What is it? Oh, it's some weird blue milky looking substance. Which what kind of crazy name would this have? It's called blue milk.
Revolution. I'll add too. It's in this like most 70s looking Tupperware too.
Yeah,
so they basically raided somebody's house.
It looks like a giant film canister or something. They just like poured out. So yeah, it's called blue milk, also known as Tatooine milk, also known as Bantha milk.
Now, is it alcoholic?
In some sources, it references it being alcoholic, and other ones it doesn't. But I do think they serve it at the bar.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't know what kind of weirdo besides the Poyle brothers from Always Sunny would order milk at a bar. But so it could be alcoholic. Maybe that's the reason everyone loves it so much. But I mean, if it is alcoholic, that would be kind of weird because it's also, through my research, it's also cited as something that they use in the universe to create various dairy products. Makes sense. So. Star Wars yogurt,
Cheeses.
Star Wars cheese, Star Wars ice cream, So, I don't know, maybe it is alcoholic. But, and this blue milk, this, one pretty, I guess, essential beverage that's seen in the movies. It's the only thing that's sort of like, memorable of the things that are eaten or drank or whatever in the films. It comes from another kind of essential but an essential species or animal of the universe, which is the bantha, which you might have heard through insults such as bantha poodoo,
Bantha fodder.
Bantha poodoo.
Yeah, which are these giant mammoth-looking animals that are basically the cows of the Star Wars universe. They have giant ram horns and these long, shaggy pelts.
They're really more like woolly mammoth.
And the Tusken Raiders ride them around.
Yeah, so they're very multi-purpose. It's weird. It kind of doesn't make sense that these things have such long, shaggy hair and they live out in a desert. It kind of seems like they got.
And they also produce milk.
Yeah, they get a little screwed over by nature, but yeah. So they that's blue milk. They come from this extensive farm of bantha, the female bantha, the teat of the bantha. Creates this delicious blue milk that is drank all throughout the Star Wars galaxy.
And you got Wooher, the hipster barista back there, steaming it behind his espresso machine and adding it with his different tubes and shit.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see that being like a blue Russian.
Yeah.
Careful, there's a beverage here, man.
I gotta put a little design in the froth. Leave me alone.
Oh, man. This... just podcast is rife with excellent reverence.
This is definitely the most ridiculous one
Yes.
thus far.
So that's the weird crap that is happening behind the scenes. Not necessarily behind the scenes, but
in the background.
In the background and in front of your face. In the cantina.
The stuff that's happening that nobody wanted to ask about.
No. And that's
no
perfectly...
one wanted to know about either. Really.
Nobody wanted to ask about. Nobody wanted to know about it. And it makes sense why you wouldn't want it recorded, huh, guys?
Yeah.
Oh.
But
so keep those droids out.
Yes. So whenever you go to a place and they want to kick out your friends, just let them, because obviously there's a good reason, right?
Correct.
Oh. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening tonight, folks. If you would like to get back to us and holler back about how ridiculous today was and how you don't actually believe we were in a bar earlier, give us a call.
I'm an alcoholic. You can believe it.
You can believe it because this whole podcast is fueled by High Life. High Life. Fueled by podcast.
And lack of money.
Lack of money.
Expensive beer.
Can you tell we're looking for sponsorship here? Anyway, give us a call if you want to leave us a voicemail. Our number is 773-669-5091. Email us if you're into the whole really long message thing on the internet. Where you can reach us at Star Wars, like the movies we're referencing, at nerdglow.com. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Please like us. Please validate our existence. Facebook.com/Star Wars Loose Cannon. And you can also tweet at us if you're more into the brevity thing, at Star Wars LC.
You can fit like at least 20 different 4-letter words into your tweets at us, so feel free to use as many as you want. There's a lot of room.
We take topic suggestions. The future is not set.
Topic suggestions if they're good, though.
Yeah. Operative word, suggestions.
All right, thanks for listening. Are you appalled by how many times we said the word jizz in this episode? You might want to call us. Tell us about it.
Tell us about your experiences.
Do we traumatize your children? Please tell us about it.
Yes, and all the kids listening out there, you shouldn't have listened to what we just said. This is where we put the parental disclaimer at the end.
Well, I mean, we were talking about a genre of music.